Hi, it's windy outside and it's cloudy, stormy weather. I'm inside the house, bundled up, alone. The topic here is facing the inevitable. We, or our mind may think that we can have control, destiny. Yeah, we can to a degree, but the inevitable, unavoidable situation pops up in life. So let's think about it and to figure out how to deal with it with the calm and quiet mind. In the other video, I mentioned about facing death or learning from death. So death is a good example. You know, you're living, but you have a terminal ending part of your life coming up eventually. So you face this eventually. So if you are somewhat resolved in facing death, you may be able to go over some of the difficulties that we face in life. Facing death is inevitable, and your time, you may have 5 minutes, 10 minutes left, don't know. What do you do? If I put myself in that shoe with a calm and quiet mind, I don't know if I can say I'm prepared, but I picture this image that after studying the biology and the neurons and how things work, as well as my experience from life, um, as in the case of if you accidentally cut your vein, the blood runs, the neuron may be cut because of the age or some lack of nutrition, bad immune system, whatever the case is, or maybe the radiation. So as you get older, of course, everybody's in the process of getting older, we face those inevitables. And consciously, we may not be aware of it, but within ourselves, all the neurons and the cells and the immune system, blood, whatever, the nutrition traveling here and there to feed oxygen and as well as anything that's necessary for us to keep going, things happen without consciously trying. You know, we don't consciously try to live. We leave it alone for fate, the nature's way, how we are developed. When something happens, of course, you can go to the doctor and medical attention and figure out, so you can use your mind as a tool to prolong the period of your life, and hopefully you live happily and healthy. But eventually, so far as I know, things are going to happen. And as I mentioned, my picture of that ending period is something like, you know, things are not working. Maybe the part of my body is cold and blood is not circulating, my lung may be hurting, and the neuron may be breaking up, so the memory is losing. You know, it's already happening in my age. And even your desire to live may be gone. So it's very difficult to imagine, but I feel I know that you go into unconscious state before death, or almost come immediately together. I don't know. So there's a disconnect of the, making the system of our life alive toward the end of life. So that's facing death. And if you practice this calm and quiet mind, you may just observe things happening. You may respond by, fighting against it with will. That's fine. You do your best, but you may eventually find yourself nothing you can do. And if you are in that state, what happens? You accept what is, and then you go into unconsciousness and end of life. Prior to that, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you may reflect back your life, what happened, and you may appreciate life, or you may regret. And I hate to be in the position to regret living life. So I want to be mindful or conscious about the inevitable to happen and to live without developing the sense of regret. So learning from death and imagining the process of how things may deteriorate, we may bring that understanding or assumption, hypothetical situation, back into the current state of our being to live our best and to live fully, appreciate what we can do, utilize whatever we can. So the case of facing death is one, but we are facing death constantly. You may not realize it, but our cells are dying every now and then, here and there. And I think every whatever months, couple months or whatever, all the cells may be replaced with the new cells. So there's a system working, and you are being born and being dead almost simultaneously and constantly. Isn't it interesting? I think it's interesting. So there's that energy, or I don't know, whatever you call it, life energy, to propel us to continue this cycle. And in the process, we mate with other partner, and then they pass on the genes and perhaps some sort of a memory related to the life prior to the passing, so that all the generations after generations, we keep living, one after the other. Internally, every cell may go through it, and individually, we have the birth and death, and collectively, as human species, we may be living for a long, 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 long time, from the birth of our first baby, whatever years ago in the past. So that's the scheme of things, I can see it. And scientifically, I can agree to that kind of a statement. So back to living now and practicing the calm and quiet mind. What's the implication of that facing death example? Here I see a case of facing the inevitable, that something you cannot do, as in the case of facing death, but that happens in daily life. You may have a broken heart from losing your loved one, whatever the situation, maybe the death, accident, or breakup, or the possibility of that happening beyond your control is the same as almost facing the inevitable. You just do your best and move on, as much as all the living beings have gone through. Just on the side story, I thought about this picture every now and then. This is a picture of the caveman living in the cave and have the fire going, and there's important, the fire is very important to keep them warm. So there are people watching, and some may be sleeping, and then one day the guy was supposed to watch the fire and keep it going, fall asleep. And when noticed there was no fire, and people get upset, and the guy who was supposed to be in the watch get really depressed. So those are the learning that we have to learn and try to not that to happen. So because of the situation that we're not perfect, we don't have the perfect information, we just do our best to learn from the past, come up with an insight so that we don't make that happen again, and then live forward. That's all you can do. Individually, you may feel guilt or regret or whatever the case is, but if you did your best, beyond your control, like facing death, there's not much you can do. So if I tie this picture, the image of facing death or fire extinguished or break up and losing a loved one, whatever, and also facing the unknown scenario to come, and it's very uncomfortable and feel miserable sometimes because things are beyond your control. Maybe it's something to do with the government regulation, or COVID-19, like virus coming, or the war, anything beyond your control. But given whatever the situation, we strived, lived, and did our best. So that's the main point. And this may sound like a conceptual view of the world, but I think it's based on the reality as much as I can see. And if you can accept that kind of a viewpoint, that's a new viewpoint than just being in the position where there's no way out and you face the inevitable lack of information, unknown behavior, whatever happens surrounding you, and so forth. But within yourself, you can do your best by being calm and accept. And from the third eye point of view, as if, or from the viewpoint from the heart, we can talk about it because we're talking about having multiple perspectives to understand the truth of the situation. So from the point of view, say, from the CEO, from a higher level, you can sort of see yourself as if you are in the movie. You have been watching this guy's movie, and you are the protagonist of playing the role. And you just a while ago, you're desperate. Now you are repeating that process, but again, not from individual point of view, but from the higher level point of view, as if you're watching in the movie theater. And this sounds crazy, but I often use this trick because that will put you to be in a more objective view of the world, about facing the inevitable in relation to those reference points that I talked about, fire getting lost and the, movie scenes of things happened. And, now you see yourself doing that as if from the third person's point of view. So that gives you another prospect or the perspective. And also you can look at yourself in that situation from the heart, let's call it, from the heart point of view. And it's like a compassionate, empathetic view from the mother or whatever, or the ones who love. And if you are in the position and struggling and being painful, maybe the one of the loved one, maybe your mother who may be around, who maybe have passed away, but you can put yourself in her point of view. And what would you think she feels? She may feel very sympathetic and want to almost put herself in your shoes to replace you. That's the love, identification of your pain with their pain. And if I'm the heart, I went through this example I described in the Julie's case, that inevitable situation arises, and I found myself, it's almost like a bottom of the ocean, the clear ocean, but I'm not deep down. And I see myself like a wave and sloshing this way and that way, and the emotion goes up and down. But I found this perspective that from the deep ocean, I see myself, and I'm not moving. I'm a very stable, far from this up and down. And then I felt that, don't do that. You don't need to do it. Don't suffer yourself more than what you can handle. I think that could be the message from the heart or the mother's view, or from this, different perspective. So the one I mentioned was from the objective point of view, more of wisdom. The other one is from the motherly, compassionate point of view. I just use the word mother. It doesn't have to be mother, it could be father, but just for the sake of discussion. The motherly point of view, right? And you have this compassion, feeling like she wants to replace you if she was in that position, because that's the love. And knowing that, like a little baby, he grows, he regains the power. And we are just one of those babies, always still struggling and try to play and have fun or whatever, and hitting your head this way and that way on the wall and crying and all that. But we are learning. And that's the kind of a picture I have. And that you can practice, not in a story, but in reality at each moment when you notice what you're doing, because you have a calm and quiet mind to observe. And this observed one who go through the delusion or suffering, excessive suffering, can have living energy, finding the energy to move on with the life. That's very courageous. To live sincerely and truthfully, have a good vision of the future, and appreciate as if you go through that at your deathbed. You lived your life truthfully and sincerely, and you have a gratitude, appreciation, and you kept the great vision that you wanted to live. That's pretty good. So, just a little story here and there, but it's not the story. At the real time when things go in our life, from moment to moment, we face all the difficulties of varieties coming from this way and that way, externally, but also from internally. So there's some issues always we have to face to live a happy life. So I suggest, or my conclusion is that I don't want to lose those perspectives and keep the calm and quiet mind and handle the situation as I have done it. And I have confidence of some level. There's no guarantee because I'm just a limited human being. But if we work on those in the life's journey, in the learning that we go through, and encourage among ourselves, I think that's pretty good, and the life well lived. Have those friends, have those perspectives, have a multiple perspective to understand who we are, what we do. Don't need to corner yourself, but it's natural that we may hit the wall here and there. But if that happens, I'm hopeful that the little talk that I went through may someday resonate in you so that you regain your energy and move forward. Have fun, do the best, enjoy your life. Let's keep on moving. Thank you.